What's up, guys? Good Thursday evening to you. How are you all doing? I am doing fine. I hope that you are doing fine too. It is good to see you, and it is good to be seen by you. I am Bill Sylvie, the Dungeon Delver, who is doing all this seeing and so on. We have got a stack of stuff tonight. Now, Kyle's going to be a few minutes late. That's okay. I won't dock Kyle's pay. Sorry, my tripod got knocked over. I won't dock Kyle's pay. We'll just tell him to do better. It's not Thursday. It is Wednesday. It is Wednesday. So anyway, tomorrow is your last chance to register as a game master for the Great Underground Online Gaming Convention. I have extended it out a little bit. So if you want to jump on, I will be posting up my games tomorrow as well. So I will have a couple of AD&D games that folks can get into. I may or may not still do a session of Dungeon. We'll have to see how well that will or will not work. But yeah, we have got some more games coming up because I know there's people waiting to do stuff. I know there's people waiting to join games. We've had a couple of people jump in this week. I kind of thought we had gotten all full, but all total, we're looking at about 50, 60 people going to be at the con, which I think is pretty good numbers. I'm pretty happy with it. And I hope you're all going to be there. I hope you're all going to be able to find games to get into, or that you're all running games. We have a shortness, a crisis, as it were, of not having enough game masters. So please, 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 if you've been thinking about it, if this is something you want to try out, this is as good a time as any to give it a spin. Just stick it out there in front of a bunch of strangers and see what happens. Tomorrow, there is no per se show. There will be a live stream, but the total and sole purpose of that live stream will be to draw names and to select the winners of the drawings for all of this awesome artwork that Jack Photon has provided. Now, as far as swag goes, I'm still waiting on some stuff from Hellebarde Games. I haven't heard back on when that stuff's supposed to get here. There may be giveaways for that later, but we definitely have stuff coming from Hellebarde. There will be freebies given out by Frog God Games. I will get with Zach and I will find exactly, no pun intended, what we're going to be sharing with you guys for free. All of that information comes tomorrow when we officially open the con. Tracy Lesh at Artist Alley will have a lot of stuff for sale. I will be announcing that as well. You'll be able to buy autographed prints, the Diggin' Life merch that he's got for sale, and starting tomorrow and running through the convention, we will be having an auction of the last autographed Mind Flayer Funko that Tracy has. It has a certificate of authenticity included, and it is autographed by the man himself. So you want to jump into that. What's the official beverage of Guac? Not Bud Light for sure. No, not Bud Light for sure. The official beverage of the Great Underground Online Gaming Convention is whatever is cold and delicious in your fridge. That is basically it. So you have plenty of time to grab the official beverage. For me, I'm probably going to get some cider, maybe some Guinness. We'll have to see. We will have to see. But anyway, all that's what's going on. Now we have a topic tonight. I see Kyle has just come into the green room. He's getting headphones on there. You know, the production staffers have tucked the little tissue around and are putting the powder on his face and everything. That's all happening over there. So he'll be joining us momentarily. Hello, Orbital Air. And we're going to talk about a game that he's been playing. I don't know that it's going to be good, Cider Jack. It may be. It might just be. It might just be. I don't know. Woodpecker, if I can find it. Angry Orchard, if not. But we'll see. We'll see. So yeah, Kyle's going to regale us about a fun game that he's been playing lately, and so we're gonna get to that here in just a hot minute, and yeah. So let's not delay any further. Is Kyle going to have his Traveler Space Force Rear Admiral? I don't think so. You can ask him about that directly, Robert. Maybe if you super chat him, just like send him a Kyle specific super chat, he'll do that for you. I don't know. I don't want to speak for the man and put words in his mouth, but I will speak to the man and listen to the words that are coming from his mouth. Deadly Dungeon Master, greetings. As I don me now my awesome headphones, let us welcome the one, and as far as science is aware, only Kyle Schuant back to the show. G'day, Kyle. How are you?
Good. How you doing, boys and girls?
Well, no complaints for me. I don't know if anybody in the chat has any, but Kyle's here to set you straight. So how are things, my friends? How was that steak dinner?
Oh, that steak dinner was quite good, yeah. I enjoyed that. And my son's birthday is a week after mine. And yesterday was a non-school day. They had like school reports and stuff. So the teachers took the day off just to meet with parents one by one, usually online. So I took Zach and two of his friends. We went to see The Flash, but proving once again that digital is not as good as analog. The movie stopped 10 minutes in. It just went blank. It didn't work. So we went downstairs and they tried to get it restarted and that, but no, it didn't work. And they apologized. They refunded my money and they gave us free tickets, 4 free tickets on top of it. They actually tried to refund me for the popcorn as well, but I said, no, be fair. We ate the popcorn. We didn't see the movie, but we ate the popcorn. So, so I just took the lads for burgers. They'd already had some lunch, but all 4 of them, being 12-year-old boys, were quite happy to have a second lunch. And they sat there talking their nonsense, and as 12-year-old boys do. I tried not to, speak in, just leave them to it. And then they came back home and they played computer games and did their cubing and all the rest. They're a nerdy bunch of kids, so nerdy 3 kids. So.
Well, wait. Do you have 4 adolescent boys?
3.
You think 4? I'm sorry.
3. There were 3.
3. Yeah, 3 adolescent boys and you. I'm seeing a D&D group here, Kyle. When are you gonna get these playing Dungeons and Dragons?
The thought did cross my mind, but truth be told, I don't want to have to deal with them regularly. They're Zach's friends. So it's 3 little geeky boys. Yeah, I don't want to have to deal with them on a regular basis. They're decent lads, but
John Stewart Keller, email me, bsylvie@gmail.com. If you want to run a game, basically all I have to do is set you to Game Master in Warhorn. So email me, and I will take care of that. And thank you for stepping up. I greatly appreciate that. Yeah, no, I completely get that. Like, for my nephew's birthday, was it his birthday? I don't remember. He had one of his friends over, and it's weird to think the little friend, like, I think of this as just being a few years ago. My nephew is in his mid-20s, so that means his annoying little friend is also now in his mid-20s. But I mean, this kid was, I mean, perhaps we explained the basics of Dungeons and Dragons a little too basically to him, because he literally wanted to attack everything. These people,
did he slay the gazebo?
These people that post D&D horror stories about having murder hobo parties. No, this kid was like, okay, you're in the town and you're buying provisions. I don't want to spend my money. I draw my sword and attack the guy selling provisions.
No, they weren't that bad, but it was just their sense of humor. They were going around taking turns saying things like I think it was meant to be a shopkeeper thing. It's like, you want apples? We've got apples. And it was all like little puns like that. And like that went the whole way that I was driving to the cinema. And I had to restrain the urge to, be that killjoy dad who's just go, shut up! Be quiet, you boys! I really had to restrain that. The closest I came to being the killjoy was that one of them was louder than the other three. Like they had to fit in the car, and there was still my daughter's child seat in the back. So one would sit in the front, and the other two sit in the back. And two out of the three are pretty solid boys. Mine's pretty lanky, but the two out of the three are pretty solid. So okay, put one of the solid ones in the front. The one I initially put in the front was the loudest, and he kept turning around and going, "Hey!" So he was yelling right in my damn ear. But I didn't want to silence him or whatever. Let him have the enthusiasm. Loud enthusiasm is part of being a kid,
Right.
I just said, when we came to do the car parking, I just said, okay, boys, be quiet now while I park the car. Because, you're watching out for pedestrians coming from between cars and cars suddenly pulling out and all that sort of stuff. You want your concentration. Then on the way back, I had them change seats. So one of them was the most quietly spoken of the three. And so I put him in the front seat. And that was much more pleasant.
Right on. So, well, like I said, I'm glad they gave you your money back for everything. And as far as the burgers go, I mean, adolescents, the first round of burgers were burned away, like by dint of walking to the theater. Straight into the reactor.
Yeah, they're 12-year-old boys. So two of them are a bit chubby, but it doesn't matter. Like next year, they'll grow 4 inches over the summer or something, and and become lanky again. Yeah, they have this alternation that it's like they chub up, they grow up. They chub up, they grow up.
Yeah. Now I have this. The insomnia that keeps you and I talking at like 4 o'clock my time in the morning. Sometimes I'll be sitting out here and suddenly, like, the smelling of cooking is wafting into my office because my kitchen's just right over there. And I'll look over and see my youngest, and she's prepared like a 4-course meal for herself. Because her sleep patterns are as bad as mine, and she's out there making like a hot turkey sandwich with cheese and French fries and salad. I'm like, I made dinner 8 o'clock last night. Where were you? I was sleeping, Dad. You know, and then I see her again at 8 o'clock in the morning, and she's having a bowl of cereal, and she's as big around as my light stands, you know.
Yeah. So these kids eating huge amounts and going, "You want apples? We've got apples," and all that sort of punning, and that I couldn't stand that for like 3 hours around a game table.
Yeah.
I can see why, because they were actually in the D&D club at school, and there was a teacher that was running it. And I could see why he stopped after a couple of weeks and claimed he had other duties.
Ah. Yeah.
So I think it's best to just buy my son the books, because there's at high school next year there's a D&D club at the high school he's going to go to. Just buy him the books. Here, son, off you go. Run your own games. Figure it out. That's the best way anyway. You know, there's kids should be kicking around together. They shouldn't have adults lurking around supervising everything. And I know that's the fashionable thing nowadays, to have the parents constantly supervising them and making sure they have fun in the right way. But fuck all that. It's just like let them just run into trees and things.
Kyle got us before the watershed, so anybody that wants to throw a super chat into the swear jar would appreciate it. But yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And dude, I got to tell you, full confession time. I was a helicopter parent with the kids. It's like, I have been to more petting zoos, science centers, just playgrounds, as many as my girls did when they were in Girl Scouts. I was stepping up. I was like, I'll go too. Which worked out well sometimes. Like I got to go to, we have a theme park here in Florida, which, brace yourself, it's called Gatorland. I know that might, yeah, it's, Florida state animal, the alligator, is on display in full view, and holy shit, is it terrifying, dude. I mean, oh my, we're like walking out on a dock, and there's railing. There's like 5 foot high railings with chicken wire, right? You're not going to accidentally fall in. But looking down, oh, there's an alligator. And you just stare at it, and it's like a Mia's-in scene. You look at it long enough, and you realize you're not looking at an alligator in dark water. You're looking at a mass of alligators just pressed together in this 10 by 10 square. So all you people out there playing Dungeons and Dragons that kick open a door to a 10 by 10 room, and the DM says that there's 20 orcs in there, I don't want to hear you complaining about it. I've seen over a dozen alligators in a and I mean big alligator. I'm talking like 6 foot long mofos, like tear you in half. Alligators crammed into a 10 by 10 spot. If anything,
well, it reminds me. I read this little Twitter thread about the making of Indiana Jones and the Snake Pit, and they said, they were in England, and they basically went around to all the stores in England, and all of England could not supply enough snakes for the pit, so they had to use rubber ones.
Yes, cut up lengths of rubber hose, rubber snakes.
Yeah, but even then, apparently the female star, I can't remember her name, but the female star, she was too terrified of the snakes. So they had to get her stunt double, who was a guy, and they said, "Are you willing to shave your legs and put on a dress so that the snake can crawl over your legs?" And he's like, "Yeah, no problem." Yep. But yeah, there weren't just in that, basically 10 by 10 area, all the snakes in England could fit in there. And still have room to spare that they needed to put fake ones in. So you can fit a lot of monsters in a small area. But as for helicopter parenting, I just got the end of term school newsletter, and I was sharing it with friends because I thought it was a bit ridiculous. Like the principal going, "It's the final week of school. What a very busy and very short term it has been. We have managed to cram in so many events, including district cross country for selected 3 to 6 students, inter-school sport and the winter gala day for 5-6 students, book fair, student attitudes to school survey for years 4 to 6 students, Mother's Day celebration, the Box Hill Japan Festival, Year 6 to 7 transition information evening, the colour fun run, school nurse visits for foundation students, education week excursions, excursions, year 6 captains to the Shrine of Remembrance, year 1 to 2 classes to the Melbourne Zoo, foundation excursion to Myuna Farm, Watashimo sausage sizzle and assessment, and reporting milestones including school reports and parent-teacher interviews. And it's like, I don't remember doing all that stuff when I was at school. They seem to put a lot more stuff in. I just remember sitting there and reciting times tables. They get to have a hell of a lot more fun now.
My parents were in the PTA, but I mean, that was about it, you know. We had like 2 school pageants, one for Thanksgiving and one for Christmas, and the PTA meetings, and you know, that was it. This, you know, like the girls, it was crazy. It just like, it seemed like every other week they were doing stuff. So yeah, a little bit of helicopter parenting on my part. So, and I can't figure out why they don't want to hang out with Dad and play Dungeons and Dragons now. I can't figure it out. That is, I for the life of me, you know, my long scraggly hair, gray beard ass playing a 50-year-old role playing game. Why don't they want that?
Jimmy says, I don't think anyone bothered to read Warhammer Fantasy Role-Playing, because he's talking about it not being banned when D&D was banned. What with there being a literal chaos god of kinky sex. Yeah, but that's the thing about role-playing rules. Hardly anyone reads them. Even the people playing them hardly ever read them. I mean, you see so many discussions online about AD&D and other games, and somebody says, oh, what's the rule for so-and-so, and this doesn't make sense to me. And you go, well, if you look at the rules on page 115, it says so-and-so, and they go, oh, okay. So nobody reads rules even when they're playing them. Do you think that the people who don't like the games are going to read the rules? Can you imagine like some evangelical pastor sitting down and reading it cover to cover? He just keeps it in the toilet, and when he sits down, he just reads, right, that's one page done, wipe. You know, I don't think so. So, you know, they just go on what they hear.
Yeah, I mean, we have the advantage, of course, of having the dungeon minister and him having a good head on his shoulders when it comes to that kind of thing. But yeah, no, I don't. I think I was talking about this the other night. You know, I think they just saw the cover of the Player's Handbook and the cover of the Dungeon Master's Guide and went, well, that's a gateway to hell. You know, and then just, I literally, I don't think they opened the books ever at all.
Well, they should have opened it to the Paladin picture. It's like, he's fighting demons.
There you go. We had there's a couple here in the United States, and they're both deceased. I can't remember the husband's name, but their last name was Warren, and they were famous psychics. They would do psychic readings of haunted houses, and Ed and Lorraine Warren. That was it, Ed and Lorraine Warren. But they would go to all these famous hauntings and say, "Oh yes, there's great evil spirits here." Like they really came into prominence after the Amityville Horror. Which have you heard of that? You know about the Amityville? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So they came into prominence because they went there and said, "Oh yes, you know the murder of the DeFeos, and this is cursed ground." And one of the funnier things that they had said was, "Well, you know, this ground has been cursed forever because the Shinnecock Indians used to bring they're insane and they're terminally ill, and they tie them to trees in this." Lead them to die. And the Shinnecock Indian tribe of Nassau County in New York issued a statement. That is literally not a part of our tribe's history. That has never happened. We can show you tribal. Like, they're famous, the Shinnecock Indians, famous for how well they treated the mentally ill and terminally ill in their tribes. But the point to D&D and the Satanic Panic, Volcano God, you've seen him in the chat before, and I've talked to him about him before, Rusty. He and his then girlfriend did like a little ghost tour of the Northeast. And wouldn't you know, the area they were up in had Ed and Lorraine Warren's Museum of Paranormal Artifacts. And it's literally like the guest room of their house. Like you walk into their house, go down the hall, there's a guest room with a bunch of glass china shelves and signs saying, please do not touch. Except, you know, they would emphasize like, you know, there's powerful energies bound up in these. Don't touch. One of the haunted artifacts was a player's handbook. There's an AD&D player's handbook sitting up. And Rusty said, Bill, I was so tempted to just pick it up off the shelf and start leafing through it and go, oh yeah, this is the Jeff Easley cover that was released in '89. This is a 10th printing plus. It'll get you about $15-20 on eBay, you know, and just sit there and leaf through it. But he said, you know, we would have gotten thrown out immediately. But there's for the great moral panic. So you actually have something gaming related to talk to us. I see you.
I do. Luther is offering some gentle encouragement, as he is wont to do. So there's a game called Road Warden, which I thought was worth our looking at because it reminds me of the old Fighting Fantasy ones. And it's actually a fairly good example of something we've talked about a number of times on the stream, how you can get out a lot of adventure out of quite a small area. So I'll just post the link. It'll come up under Bill's name. So that's the studio. They're a bunch of guys from Poland. So some of the text, the language is a bit odd. You know, when you get the Europeans who, like, the English is fluent, but some of the phrasing is a little bit odd because they're translating directly from their own grammar and syntax in their native language. And then sometimes they've added little oddnesses to try to make the game world seem more alien. Like they refer to bodies. They don't say body of an orc or whatever. They say the shell. So there's little things like that. Anyway, so I was just figuring out the streaming. It won't let me share it just as an application window. I have to share it as as my whole screen. So I'll just make up this whole screen. So Bill, you'll have to look at any comments. I won't see them.
That's fine.
So yeah, so it's Road Warden. It just comes up like that. There's they have some music, but I've turned the music off. It's just normal background kind of stuff. And all the normal sort of settings that you can have. Anyway, so go new game. Everyone knows to stay away from the wilderness. Most people would never risk a lonely journey. Road Wardens not only accept this struggle, they embrace it. They deliver messages, assist merchants, burn human corpses, and, if possible, get rid of the beasts and highwaymen. They live on the road, die young, or retire early. It's a dangerous job, but a respectable one, and it pays well. So you've got two options. I leave the safety of the city walls, or I better check my bundles. If you say I better check my bundles, it just takes you back to the start screen. So you don't have an option to trundle around. So you must be in some big city or whatever. Okay. So go back. And then there's the other option. I think my horse has a cold. Yeah, I leave the safety of the city walls. All right. Please select the difficulty mode, casual for those focused on the story, no time limit, more cash at the start. Some quests are more forgiving. Standard for those familiar with RPGs, 40-day time limit, regular rule set. Restrictive for the returning Road Wardens, 30-day time limit, and increased nighttime damage. All right, so we'll go casual. The wall is still standing, so you've come from the city and you're going into, there's a little mini fort. The wall is still standing. There are no wolves around, no stench of blood. Good signs. This should be the place you're looking for. You were supposed to meet with a group of soldiers, but you hear no voices, no sounds of labour. The gate is ajar, but the camp isn't safe. It may keep away the goblins and peddlers, but not beast folk nor trolls. And the night is near. Your palfrey, kind of horse, breathes heavily. It had a long day. So you go, I could just look for another shelter. I need to look around cautiously. I dismount and sneak to the gate. I get off the horse and enter the camp briskly. I'll look around cautiously. Considering the noise, you doubt that anyone knows the clatter of hooves. The short, dry grasses barely cover the arid soil of this valley, but you're maybe a minute away from the edge of the sparse woods, which get denser as they climb up the hills. At best, this trail has a few more years before getting overgrown for good. Hard to believe it's the only route north. I could just look for another shelter. I dismount and sneak to the gate. I get off the horse and into the camp briskly. Oh, alright, let's go in. Your heavy boots hit the ground and the pain of the long ride finally catches up with you. You stretch out, bringing your back and legs comfort. All you want now is a table, a decent chair, a nice mug of beer, and some warm stew. With any luck, your axe won't be needed here. I approach the gate, ready to walk in. Alright, so they've got a couple of things that have popped up on the side. So there's the position of the sun, 0 hours and 30 minutes before dusk. And then there's your heart vitality, 3 out of 4, you feel well. Take care of yourself. If you're hurt or exhausted, some actions won't be available to you. The weaker you are, the higher the chance you die in combat. Okay, so that's your hit points. So you walk in. If it's a military camp, it doesn't look the part. Plenty of wasted space to find if it is cold. 2 people are sitting at the table, tired and disheartened. They're looking in different directions, paying no attention to one another. One of them's holding a cup. It takes a few breaths for them to glance in your direction. The first person greets you with the wave of his hand. There are bags under his eyes, his beard is messy. Despite his simple shirt, he's wearing durable, decent boots. A mace with a head covered in iron hangs at his side, but he doesn't reach for it. The second one, just like you, she's wearing a gambeson, but hers is a bit loose, as if she took it off a corpse. Her head is shaven, as if she's protecting herself from flesh-eating bugs. Okay, does that protect you from rock grubs, do you think, Bill? Plus one say versus rock grubs. Shave your head. I reckon it's worth a try. Her eyes are weary, yet kind. She smiles. Considering the squad was sent here half a year ago, these 2 surely look the part. Though there should be more of them. 8, you believe. So you can let them speak first, or ask them about their lieutenant. Which should I do, audience? Bill, tell me what they say I should do. Should I let them speak first, or ask them about their lieutenant?
We're going to let the dice decide. 1, 2, 3, you let them speak first. 4, 5, 6, you ask them about the lieutenants. Let them speak first. I rolled a 3.
It's nice to see an unharmed traveller in this godforsaken shithole. Makes me just a tiny bit hopeful. The bearded man's voice is strong, yet timid. Strong, yet timid? Okay. You'll be staying the night with us, I guess. We're soldiers, he and I, adds the armoured woman. Her moment switches from half asleep to relaxed. See, that's what I mean about the language, just because it's like obviously not their first language, so some of it's a little bit odd. Her moment switches from half asleep to relaxed. Anyway, we'll do our best to keep the camp safe, but if you were to take the first watch, it would be a huge help. Travellers ought to help each other, wouldn't you say? You think for a moment. To fully rest, you'll need a good sleep. So, do we say, sure, leave it to me, or I'm exhausted? Do we pike out the...
I think we need a more granular roll this time. I'm going to use percentile dice. 1 to 50, leave it to me, and then 51 to 100. You know, a little bit more variation there. And we have a 42, so sure, leave it to me.
Fantastic. She rubs her hands together. I don't remember the last time I had more than half the night of sleep. The hours before midnight should be the calmest. Just wake us up if anything happens. The man flashes you a wide smile. It's easy to wake us up. Just yell. He drinks from his mug. Now I ask him about the lieutenant. So, this is the social interaction. You wonder how to phrase your question. There's friendly, playful, distance, hiding your emotions, intimidating, hints at a threat, or vulnerable, be sad, tired, afraid, or hopeless. So whenever you meet new people, you can influence how they perceive you by selecting one of the attitudes. On my previous playthroughs, I've just gone for friendly. I'm not sure what you would get. Playful versus friendly comes to the same thing, I imagine. Distance, hide your emotions. I don't know. Intimidating. I'm not sure I want to go around intimidating everyone I meet. This isn't a choice for the whole rest of the game. You can obviously choose for each encounter. Or vulnerable. So which should I choose? I know loser just want to go around intimidating people.
Friendly. I think friendly.
I was hoping to meet with your lieutenant. Could we talk for a bit? The woman lets out a loud sigh, dusts off her canvas on, and steps toward you. She pays little attention to the sword at her side. We most definitely can, you and I, though holding this rank is still somewhat new to me. Are you a messenger? Did you lose your mount? She observes you with curiosity. Or are you looking for help? I'm your new road warden, you reply. My horse is waiting outside. Really? The soldier in the shirt leans forward. That explains how you got here in one piece, all by yourself. Better bring your beast here as the lieutenant. We have no hay, but I bet it dreams of dropping its saddle. Long pause. I'm Tulia, by the way. She reaches out her hand. I shake her hand and say, I'm, or the other alternative is, it may be a trap. I gesture for her to stop, pretending to be embarrassed. I should wash myself first, but you can call me... So are we scared to shake her hand, or not?
Unfortunately, we are scared to shake her hand.
Okay, maybe a trap. Right, how do you want people to call you? And then this is where you name your character. What am I going to call the character? Let's call the character Luther. There we go.
Luther, there you go. Luther, you may be eaten by zombies tonight. Just warning you in advance.
The lieutenant stands with her hand out, but then raises her arms with an awkward smile. Of course. Just keep your horse away from the tents. She steps away. We don't need to smell its dung. We should also prepare for the night. The soldier in the shirt also rises to his feet. We've no tent to spare. You'll have to use a blanket or something. You could say, that's fine, or I should get used to sleeping on the ground anyway. I think those are about the same response. Anyway, that's fine. You walk through the gate. Your mount looks around and snorts anxiously. Not many humans could ride a horse. It's not only taller than you, it's also bulky, as heavy as it is strong. You can get in the saddle with a single breath, but most people wouldn't know where to even begin. For every side, it's a wall of flesh. Horses were brought to the Dragon Woods from the conquest in the south. They can trot for a long time, but won't outrun some of the local monsters. Your palfrey needs you to survive, but without it, you too would be lost. So you can say to yourself, it's my only companion here, I want it to feel at ease, or I don't care how it feels, but I need it to be strong if I want to travel, and I can't afford another one.
We're going to say, it's my only companion, I want it to feel at ease.
Okay. So, just note what they're doing here. Obviously, they're introducing the game mechanics as the game goes on. Like, they've showed you the vitality, and they'll show you a couple of other stats later on. But they're also introducing the interaction mechanics as the game goes. It can be friendly, intimidating, and so on. And they're also telling you something about the game world, rather than going, presenting you with 10 pages. This is a background. Read it before the next session. They're just presenting it as you go along. Yep, you have a horse, and then you get told, by the way, it's unusual to have a horse. And people think that it's pretty cool, and so on. So I'm sure there's some cinematic technique that this is called. But yeah, it's show as you go rather than presenting. I personally am in favour of that because, again, we want people to be able to just sit down at the table and take 5 to 15 minutes to roll up a character and then just start playing. We don't want them to have to make a character background and then read pages and pages of background on the game world and all the rest. We want them to be able to just get straight into it. And Road Warden allows you to do that. So this is one of the reasons that I thought it was worth looking at, because it's a good example to us for D&D.
Mm-hmm.
It takes a few steps towards you, scolding you with another sword. You scratch the bottom of its neck with strength and confidence, just the way it likes it. Humans see useful animals and even pets as monsters in disguise. Getting emotionally attached to them is believed to leave humans to their doom. But you know that horses need companionship. I speak to it gently and lead it to the camp. You end up next to the fire pit. Removing the saddle makes the horse nicker with relief. You take a couple of minutes to examine its back, just in case. While the riding equipment is not that heavy for such a strong animal, with enough time it starts to chafe. You wish you had something better to eat. You wish it had something better to eat than this shabby grass. You should look for an inn. I need to unpack. You haven't brought that many things, and you lost one of the sacks while fleeing the Crimson Corpse Eaters. Worst of all, you have no rope left, but maybe the soldiers could share one. Shouldn't cost more than a dragon bone. Aside from the travel set, you own a few valuable possessions, essential for your trade. This is where you choose your character class. Fighter. I spent my savings on decent combat equipment. I have a fine gambeson. So, by the way, we're in the game where you see words highlighted like this. Later on, there's a journal, and it has entries for each of those ones. Where you see white words like this. Mm-hmm. You'll see that later with people's names and the names of towns and things like that. Anyway, fighter. I spent my savings on decent combat equipment. I have a fine gambeson, an axe made of steel, and a reliable crossbow with claws. Mage. I have talismans that help me use my powers, as well as an iron axe and a worn gambeson. Scholar. I carry writing instruments and alchemical ingredients, as well as an iron axe, a worn gambeson, and a healing potion. And then there's I want to learn more about the 3 classes, so we can go there. As a fighter, you'll have an easier time in physical challenges thanks to your superior equipment and hidden bonuses during dice rolls. You'll be physically more capable than the other classes, what opens unique opportunities during some social interactions. It's the best class for RPG beginners. Their fighters' weakness is their reliance on physical strength. Your special abilities won't be available to you if your vitality points drop to 0. The mage uses Pneuma, a versatile but limited pool of energy points that can be spent to cast a few humble spells. Magic won't protect you better than a sharp axe, but as a mage, you'll be able to heal faster while resting, detect magic in a mysterious area, distract a beast with a simple trick, and find a common tongue with other magic users. Using the mage's powers too freely will result in having no Pneuma left when you need it the most. The scholar will know more about the world's mysteries than you do, helping you take advantage of some unusual situations. Your character will impress the locals with its knowledge, and you'll be able to read the sparse written clues without anyone's assistance. Scholars struggle with combat more than the other classes, but with enough carefulness and exploration, you'll gain access to chemical mixtures that will help you escape from many dangerous situations. Alright, what character class should we be, guys?
Alrighty, let's see here. Simple D6.
Luther gets the first vote, otherwise, but that can be trumped by anyone who super chats. Otherwise, just see what they say in the chat.
Alright,
Fighter, mage, or scholar.
If you want to pick fighter, magic user, or scholar, then let us know. Anybody wants to trump him, that's going to cost you a super chat. It's up to you, Luther. Otherwise, I roll the D6. Now, I apologize to our small audience tonight. We are getting a little bit of chop. Hopefully, it'll settle down. Sometimes it works that way. We get Aussie netted or Florida netted. But hopefully, yeah, it'll settle down and won't quite be so broken up. So we're just waiting on Luther. Other audience members are chiming in and they want scholar, but we'll again, it's Luther's pick, so he might have something different he wants.
Unless he's lost interest and wandered off.
Exactly.
I just went for
All right.
the fire myself last time I played, but that's me.
Well, almost half the audience now wants Scholar, so we'll go with Scholar.
All right. Let's go. You unpack and inspect your belongings. Your water skin isn't pierced. The spare clothes are still here. Just in case, you take a look at your wooden bowl and mug, your cape, tinder box, bandages, food rations, knife. Nothing special or too cumbersome. From time to time, your routine helps you avoid mistakes, but this doesn't make it any more exciting. All right, open your inventory to see your possessions. So we've got an inventory. So we've got food rations, dried meat, crackers, nuts, seeds, fruit. Okay, iron rations. Okay, so we've got two meals of food rations. Then there's a fresh healing potion. A pouch with coins. The city artisans make coins by cutting dragon bones into slices. They are valued by merchants, though rarely used in the countryside. So that's your dragon treasure. It's bones. A gambeson. Sorry, a padded defensive jacket made of linen filled with rags. It's the cheapest type of armor, yet surprisingly effective, and as a result, very common. Alchemical ingredients. To brew new potions, you need to find suitable tools and some undisturbed time. Brewing is difficult, and your alchemical skills, while humble, are valuable. The travel set. Your sacks contain all sorts of useful tools. I think you can, yeah. So you can actually click on the individual things and get, like the alchemical ingredients. A bundle of black woundwort, a caviar mushroom, a snake bait flower, a jar of cursed soil, a piece of flower-looking driftwood, and so on. So that's the alchemical ingredients. Yeah, you can click on each of those things and it tells you something about them. The travel set. All sorts of odds and ends you take on this journey just in case. A rainproof cloak, a set of bone needles and thread, an iron knife, a blade sharpener, a tinder box, that sort of thing. All right. Writing instruments. Most people in the Dragonwoods don't need to know how to read or write. The lessons are time-consuming and often expensive. The exchange of written text is practiced among people who need to create complex, exact documents and keep them in good condition. Blah, blah, blah. Okay. A simple battle axe. Traveling with an axe shows that you've learned how to fight humans and human-sized monsters. It's not masterfully made, but it's already been put to test, and you've practiced with it for many days. Okay, so that's his inventory. You also have, okay, so there's a vitality still, and then there's the gambeson, the armor. It's at 2 out of a possible 4. It will stop the lighter attacks, but not for long. Return to the soldiers. They're at the table again, observing your beast and chatting between themselves. Your stomach growls at the sight of them eating out of wooden bowls. One more bowl was put at a previously unused end of the table. You can sit down on a tree log. I join them and take a look at the meal, or I thank them for the meal, but I don't want to eat with them. I sit down and ask Tulia what she can tell me about this area, or I completely ignore the meal. I sit down and speak to Tulia. She's the lieutenant, remember. So which of the three should we do?
Man, I am a guy who never turns down a free meal. Let's have something to eat.
Okay. I join them and take a look at the meal. It's cold gruel, the meal eaten in times of hardship. This specific bowl is filled with water, hog millet, some strange-looking cereals, and blueberries. Welcoming you with a meal, even a humble one, is beyond their duty. Soldiers live with and for their companions, constantly on the move from one part of the realm to another, making sacrifices to protect their group as they face dozens of hideous creatures. Their lives are filled with discipline, hardship, and camaraderie. Road wardens, on the other hand, learn how to work by themselves. They seldom engage in open combat, patrolling the same roads for years. They help the settlements stay in touch, but also maintain commerce, settle down, forge friendships. When there are no laws to follow, they use their own judgment. Different responsibilities, different lifestyles. In other words, road wardens are adventurers. I eat quickly, not focusing on the taste, then speak with Tulia. She's focused and chooses her words carefully. She looks away only when she gathers her thoughts. I'm afraid I can tell you less than I would like to and less than I should. She nods toward the other soldier. As you can see, there's not a lot of us left. At the beginning of summer, there were 8 of us, including our previous lieutenant. 5 are dead, 1 has run away in tears. Not destined to be an adventurer. We're also strangers in this land, adds her companion. You reply, any piece of information may help me do my job. The man leans forward, his legs shake nervously. He sounds like a kid asking a bard to sing one more story, tell a joke, or do a magic trick. Whatever it takes to escape from boredom. His untrimmed beard hides a much younger face than you originally thought. What did the officials tell you? I expect not that much. No soul governs these lands. You can reply with, I share with what I consider to be relevant, or what I've discussed with the officials should stay between me and them. Which is it?
I share what I consider to be relevant.
Okay. You tell the soldiers how little guidance you've received. Since this area is too far away from Hovlevan to keep it under control, so Hovlevan is the big city that you'd come from, you are warned that it's untamed and unknown. Who knows how many villagers, bandits, or monsters may be found in these unmapped hills and forests. From time to time, new people come here to look for boundless opportunities. Most of them never return. Do they turn into walking corpses, or find what they're looking for? So you reply, no soul could tell me, so I was looking for your guidance. The lieutenant drinks from her cup and crosses her legs, ankle on knee. Seeing her chair makes you doubt she'll ever find a comfortable position. Where should we start, she says. And then there's a whole bunch of questions you can ask. What should I know about the peninsula? Any ideas on what happened to the previous road warden? I've lost my rope, could you spare one? What happened to your squad? Blah, blah, blah. So they're all information things. So, and then it just has the last option, which is grayed out, so you can't click it. Before I continue on my journey, I need to ask them about the peninsula, the road warden, and the rope. So that's kind of the minimum information you need to get. So I'll ask about the peninsula, so they just tell you a little bit about it. I'm not going to go into all the details. Okay, then you know, we here go the road. This camp is our post, and well, she said, don't take it the wrong way, Luther. But are you a devout soul? So then you get to answer about your religion. This is where your character basically chooses their alignment. So you can say, like most city folk, I believe that people should unite their strength to overcome the threats of nature and dark magic. Everyone will be judged for both good and evil deeds. I'm part of the United Church. Or you can say, for many years, I've supported a monastery that does its best to advance mankind's spiritual growth, artistry, herbalism, and magical research. I follow the teachings of an order of truth. Or I'm from a small village. For me, the freedom of soul, pneuma, and soul are the main virtues in life. My community is unique and independent, and so are its members. I have a place in my fellowship. Or I have a strong connection to nature and spirits and follow the path of my ancestors. Some of my beliefs may be considered as sinister and treacherous by the city folk. You'd probably call me a pagan. Or there's no evidence of the right, capital T, capital W, the right's existence, and all the mystical tales are explained by magic. No, I'm not. So that's 1, 2,
We're
3,
part of the United
3, 4, 5.
United Church. Sorry, that's just how that is.
Okay. A fellow United, the man smiles. Though in this land won't bring me much good. At least we can discuss this topic freely, as the lieutenant with a barely visible smile. She said, yeah, the people here are disquieting. The peninsula is connected with roads. In the northwest, you'll find a weird village at a bog. It's not exactly pagan, I don't think. It even has a priest who claims to be an eremite. They do crazy shit. Her companion chips in. They use the dead to cut down trees and dig in soil. Once I saw it, I begged to never return there. So again, you learn about the game world through conversations with NPCs, rather than the GM just reading you from a box text. You've heard tales such as this one since you were a child. If an isolated settlement manages to survive without a city's influence, its customs and traditions grow more and more alien. Every generation learns how to adapt to the dangerous conditions they have to deal with, and the rustic pagan traditions muddy their river of faith. The United Church often warns its members about the crazy druids, necromancers, and blood mages, the bringers of doom, the traitors to humankind. And so you can ask about the necromancers and blah blah blah. But anyway, so we also have to ask about the previous rogue warden. She said, "Aren't you a bit late for a rescue mission? We haven't heard from him for almost half a year." The soldiers speak for a bit between themselves, trying to get their story straight. They confirm that he had stopped by their camp a few times, but stopped showing up at all in early summer. The bearded soldier starts to scratch the table with the tip of his knife without looking at you. "I don't remember his voice. Always busy, drowning in things to take care of. He would sit somewhere, sharpen his sword, fix his loud mail, clean clothes, write notes on that wax tablet of his. Yep, and leave it at dawn. Unlike us, Asterion never gets bored." Tulia lets out a joyless chuckle. "He's secretive, but some of the locals speak about him warmly. Maybe he just doesn't like us." You reply, "It sounds like you're not sure if he's dead or not. If anyone knows, they won't tell us. Maybe someone is keeping him in a basement. We haven't seen him or his Saurian. Something ate them." I bet. The officials have hired you, right? They don't expect him to return. Richer road wardens often use four-legged, meat-eating Saurians as their mounts. They have to be tamed and trained since they're hatching, but unlike horses, can easily defend themselves from many monsters. At least your palfrey is fast and reliable and won't suddenly sink its teeth into an innocent passerby. Yeah, so they want you to go and find him, basically, and then you get the rope from him. Okay, and then you can say, "I know everything you need," and then prepare for the night, prepare for your watch, and then they talk about the arrangements for the watch. And then during the night, so you see the sign, the image has changed.
Mm-hmm.
There, it's gone a bit darker. You hear the death screams of distant prey and the mating calls of monkeys. Runners are chasing a grey hare. A group of musk oxen lazily chew the grass, preparing themselves to sleep. A dusk fox is running together with a lynx, making playful screeches. Thankfully, you never have to intervene. You just sit there watching the not-so-distant forest, trying to outlast your sleepiness. You can only guess how much time has passed. Once you feel you've had enough, you climb down and go to a tent, waking up the bearded man with just a couple of words. You confirm that nothing important has happened. I look for a place protected from wind. I use my bag as a pillow, put my blanket on the ground, and cover myself with my cloak. I disabled the audio, but there's nighttime crickets soundings and frogs and things like that going on. So it's a little bit atmospheric. You're not used to sleeping in such harsh conditions, but it's better than nothing. The weather is gentle, maybe you won't catch a cold. The stars instantly inspire your dreams, both with their splendour and by making you look for patterns and shapes among them. Your job starts tomorrow. The Merchant Guild wants to take control of this realm. Your wandering duties are secondary. First and foremost, you need to explore the peninsula, learn about the territories, resources, and threats. Get to know the locals, and if you can, convince them to consider negotiations with Hovlaven officials and traders. Could the tribes resist the soldiers, or be a threat to the priests of the United Church? Are there any forbidden practices that need to be eradicated, such as blood magic, necromancy, robbery, or slavery? Basically, you're like the scout for the Lord who wants to establish a stronghold and clear the surrounding hexes of monsters. You know, you're the scout and you're the starter for clearing the hexes, really.
Yep.
Once you finish your reconnaissance, you should speak with Tulia and return to Hovlevan. There you will report back to your employers and get your reward. In the meantime, you have your own goal to pursue. So, your own goal is which? I need to gather some extra coins so I can help a person I care about. I need to gather some extra coins so I can retire early and live in prosperity and safety. If I gather enough connections among the local leaders, I'll use them to become a major player in the Merchant Guild. I want to be remembered as the soul who brought peace and order to this realm. A hero. I just want to help people. Make this region safer for the locals and the newcomers alike. I need to find a new life for myself. I have a difficult past, and I want for it to be forgotten. So what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them.
Tooth Espy. I'm between 4 and 5 myself, so that's an easy one. What do you guys think out there in the audience of these choices? You want to gather, you want to make money for somebody that needs it back home. You want to make money so you can retire early. You want to get some connections so you can become a major player in the Merchants Guild. You want to become a hero. You just want to do the right thing, or you have a shady past that you're looking to sink underneath all this glory that you're going to heap on yourself. Which of those 6 do you guys want to do? For our remaining audience out there, what? I'm leaning towards being a hero myself, or making it safe for newcomers or locals alike.
Hero was my choice last I played.
I'm sorry, what, Kyle?
Hero was my choice last I played.
Yeah. See, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's a natural D&D thing. All right. Okay. So now they introduce a new mechanic: sleep. You choose to sleep, and sleep on the ground. Won't be that comfortable. All right. So you get up in the morning. Both soldiers are standing near a humble pyre. The man in the shirt looks at it contemplatively. Tulia is the first one to address you. Luther. She greets you with a nod. We use the horse's manure for the flames, so don't worry about cleaning it up. You see a corpse among the flames. It's impossible to tell if it belongs to a male or a female, but it was an adult. The burning process won't be over for a couple more hours. A traveller or an undead, you ask? The latter. A young one. She lacked the pneuma to understand that she couldn't get inside the camp without climbing. I stabbed her with a spear from a safe distance. She shifts away. One more fog and she'd be a real threat. Even now, it took a couple of hits to knock her down. Sooner or later, every human shell wakes up, gaining more strength with each soul it devours and each moment it spends in the fogs. Burning the dead is not just a religious practice, it's a necessity. Soldiers, priests, village mayors, even road wardens. Making a large pyre takes a lot of time, but it saves lives. Tulia calls this undead a she. Most unites hesitate to do so. So there you go. That's a sort of a thing where they've thought about how what happens in the game world affects the cultures of the game world. So, because people who die whether naturally or by violence or whatever tend to become zombies, you burn their bodies so they can't be. I thought that was fairly cool.
Let's get out there and sword a sword or an axe.
Yep. So now you travel. Okay. So this is just their map. Okay. So that's Tulia's camp down the bottom there. Military outpost surrounded by a wooden wall set in the middle of the valley. You're currently here, and they've got a little legend. There's a little down on the side there. There's nighttime shelter. So if you need or want to, you can come back to Tulia's camp and you can shelter at night there. You travel north, and then this is the new bit of map that's been exposed. Even at a later hour, you wouldn't expect to meet any travellers in the valley. The warm summer breeze lures your mount forward, but the serene chirping of birds is quickly replaced by the distracting screeches and gurgles coming from further down the path. You soon find the pack of four-legged griffins. They're larger than foxes and merge the features of birds and furred beasts. Each one is of a different size, coat, and colours, and their temperaments are just as varied. Their fronts are covered with vivid feathers, while their rears have darker fur. Their wings are massive, making them impressive jumpers, but they're too heavy to fly. About 2 dozen beasts are yelling, brawling, and chasing each other around, blocking your path. I consider my options. It says you can't enter the forest blindly. If these or other creatures were to chase after you, the thicket would be disastrous for your horse. There are reasons why travellers choose stay as close to the main roads as possible, and why adventurers move in groups. Usually, the safest approach would be to stay where you are and just wait for the pack to get hungry. It may, however, take up to a couple of hours. You're thinking about your conversation with Julia. You've got a lot to do, and time may be of the essence. So it says, on occasion you can use the Scholar's Education to unlock unique interactions. I didn't get that because I played the fight. But anyway, the simplest options are, I take my axe and hurry the horse. If we ride fast enough, we should be fine. Or I should stay here, be better safe than sorry. But let's see what the knowledge says. I mix black powder with gladden that grows nearby, and the dried skunk sorrel from my bag. Once I ignite it and throw it at the griffins, they'll scatter. Oh, okay.
Make a grenade.
So you basically
with that.
Fire. Yeah, basically throw firecrackers at them. Most city folk feel aversion towards black powder, and you touch it with great care. The odor of the plants makes you feel dizzy, but what's more important is that the griffins have wolf-like sensitivity to smells and noises. A few of the beasts turn their heads towards you as you approach the pack with the bag in your hand. You ignite your missile and throw it forward. At the first, the creatures surround the source of smoke, but then growl in disgust, even putting their beaks to the ground. They flee, allowing you to continue your journey. I climb on the horse and cover my nose. I really need to find a proper alchemy set. So basically, yeah, the game just goes on like that, and then you you meet people and have adventures and so on and so forth. It's a pretty cool little thing. Whenever you come to a combat situation, there's always an opportunity to run off or to just sort of like hit one of them, so that, you know, like you fire your crossbow at the group of monkeys and he gets wounded and all the monkeys run away and so on. So it's not merely running around hitting things with your sword.
Well, I like the easing into it, and the fact that it doesn't, like, you know, you're not drinking from a fire hose. You know,
Yes.
and you know, I feel like I had this conversation once upon a time, by which I mean a few months ago, with Paul Stormberg, because I was lamenting some things that were going on in my Monday night game, and I said, you know, I don't want to railroad the players, and I don't want to railroad players. And he said, but Bill, sometimes the players willingly get on the train.
Yeah,
and they're not waiting for you to they're not waiting to present you, or they're not waiting for you to present them with even more options. They're waiting for you to start the thing. They'll get off at the next station and mill around and do some exploring, and then when they're ready to get back on the train, they'll get back on the train, gently leading, particularly a beginning character, even if you're an experienced RPG gamer in an unfamiliar system. I mean, you know, as much as I like them, the first couple of times I played the Fallout 3 games, it was like, or not the Bethesda Fallout game, just like, okay, here you go, here's the world, well, what do I do?
Yeah,
go do stuff. And that can be well and good, but you know, that first quest can be, you know, can be pretty helpful. And I like how this game presents just a little set of rails for you to get started on before you go out there and try and Conan your way around the world in an unfamiliar system, if you follow what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do. Just wanted to show you, like, so this is the, what am I doing? So this here is the map. No, I don't want to share the whole screen. There we go. So this here is the whole map that they have. So down the bottom there, that's Tullia's camp, and then after that you come to a crossroads, and then there's a little village. There's a dolmen over to the right, and so on. So you can see where there's sort of the locations that you can interact with. They stand out on the map there, locations that you can interact with, and there's a fandom web page, and there's probably about 20 or 30, probably about 30 different locations that they've got. So if we go back to the hex crawl stuff that we were doing and think about that, you've got the central village, and then you've got 6 hexes around that, and then you've got 12 hexes around that, 18 hexes in all. It's fairly similar in that regard, that like 18 hexes plus the original, like, you can have quite a lot of adventure in that. Now this is a closed-ended one, that like after your 30 or 40 days, you've accomplished what you need to. You've persuaded the villagers to come into the trading alliance with the big city nearby, and you might have done some other things like smacked over some zombies and so on. You might have accomplished your own personal goals or not, but you will have come. So it's kind of a closed-ended one. Nonetheless, it's a relatively small area with a fair bit of adventure, because there's different villages and groups. Like there's one town which has got a plague going on in it. There's a monastery nearby. There's another town where they've got these zombies as slave labor. There's a bandit camp and so on. So there's all these different little groups. And of course, there's wandering monsters. You could just be wandering along a trail and come across some goblins or screaming monkeys and that sort of thing. So, yeah, it's, as I've said before, you can have quite a lot of adventure in a relatively small space, and you can kind of walk people into the game world as well. Tell them more about it as you go. It might be a little bit railroady, but it doesn't have to be.
Right. Now, does it have random encounters as well?
Yes, it does. So when you're so you on the travel map, you click that you're going to such and such place, and then it pops up and it says, oh yeah. So it doesn't do the random encounters in the first couple of little areas, like when you're going from that initial soldiers camp to the first town or whatever. It doesn't do random encounters there, but later on it does. And the first random encounter or two will be relatively low powered, that like it's screaming monkeys and you could just fire your crossbow at them or whatever. Or like, well, that was a random encounter that we just had before, where he found the pack of griffins and then chucked the black powder at them. Right. That was a random encounter, I believe. So yeah.
Now, I just want to mention real quick. I mean, this is not an endorsed or sponsored video at all, but if this sounds like your Road Warden is currently like $7 on Steam. That's $7 US. Your mileage may vary wherever you are, but Moral Anxiety Studios puts this thing out. So if you wanna check that out, I will put up the link there.
Jimmy, no, I have no association with this game whatsoever. I just came across it on Steam. Well, correction, the RPG site. There was a guy who popped up and kept talking about it, about Road Warden. He's been talking about it for like 2 years or something. So his little Moral Anxiety Studios, I don't know whether it consists of a team of 100 guys or it's just him. I've no idea. It looks fairly low budget and simple, but and I think he uses. Isn't there some software built called RPG Maker or something that they use for this kind of fighting fantasy style, choose your own adventure style kind of thing?
There's something called RPG Maker that has just a huge community. I don't know if this is part of that, but RPG Maker lets you do like Legends of Zelda. I mean, like the original, like for the SNES or NES Zelda style RPGs. But I don't know if that's the same one that they may have used. But yeah, there are a lot of DIY, turnkey RPG builders out there. And this might be one of them.
Yeah, they say, on the FAQ, is this set in the same fantasy setting as Tales from the Windy Meadow or The Tavern? So they've got another couple of games that are like that. But yeah, so, I mean, yeah, if you go to their webpage, then you'll find some things about it. But I believe, don't quote me, I believe they used RPG Maker for it. But anyway, it's just a text-based RPG with those little images. It's nothing dramatic, but I think it's nice inspiration for our D&D games, both in its content but also its approach. So the approach being gradually introducing the player to the game mechanics and the game world, more show rather than tell. Rather than giving them a big info dump at the beginning, just let them learn as they go along. A relatively small number of places to go to have your adventures and random encounters along the way as well. And, a few different factions within those groups. And the player's actions can change it. So, I befriended the bandits and got a few places to go and smack over the village that was using all the zombie slave labor. And then I realized that village is probably going to starve. And they all hate me now.
Yeah. The hell, dude. They're zombies. They're machines. So getting mad at people for fishing for sharks. What is wrong with you, Kyle?
But anyway, so by the way, I changed the game world a little bit. So
I do want to mention real quick though. Just this evening, Stu Keller has stepped up and will be running running a game at the Guac. So thank you very much, Stu, for not just signing up for the con, but signing up and stepping up as a game master. That's John Stewart Keller right here in the chat. We really appreciate that. Thank you so much for stepping up. And I will switch on your game mastering tools, and you'll be able to you'll be able to recruit players. And I'll let folks know in the Discord tonight that you've got that going on. By the way, you should now have a link to the Discord, Stu, and let me know if that works. And we'll proceed apace, as the man once said. How about you, Kyle? I know weekends can be a little touch and go for you. You think you're going to make it to the Guac this year?
Oh, I don't think so, because it's the first weekend of the school holidays as well.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So,
but get your merch. Get your merch.
Yeah.
You can have 2 coffee cups.
Yeah,
we'll get
I'll hit up Dungeon Minister and for my coffee cup.
Right on. Yeah, so next year's your year. Next year's your year, because we're going to have Heidi Gygax and Eric Garland, her husband, are going to be attending the Guac, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be fun this year. Don't run off and not do it, but it's fun this year too. But I wish we could get you. I may expand it out a little bit next year. I may start it like on Wednesday night, which would be your Thursday. Yeah,
that makes things more possible.
All right. Well, we'll aim for that to try and try and get you on.
I could do things with a 12-year-old geeky boy around, but I can't do things with a 7-year-old girl who asks a lot of questions hanging around. There's a reason we didn't take her to The Flash. There's 2 hours and 26 minutes, and oh, but why is he what? And
yeah, I think I've told. I'm almost certain, 100% certain, I've told you this story, and I guess mark me as a horrible person, but when the first Spider-Man movie, or maybe it was Iron Man, the first Iron Man, it was either the first Iron Man or the first Spider-Man came out. I was in the theater watching it. No, it was Iron Man. It was. I remember now. It was Iron Man, and I'm in the theater watching it. And understand, I mean, at this point, we've had 2 or 3. I can't remember when the third Spider-Man movie came out. If it was before or after Disney started doing Disney Marvel. So at this point, it's not like tedium to watch a superhero movie like they can be these days. So I'm sitting there fully enraptured in it. 15 minutes in the front of me to my right, God bless him. And it kind of shocks me to think, because now the person I'm about to start talking about is in his 20s, is like a 6-year-old kid. And it was like a cartoon, Kyle. I'm not kidding you. Why did he do that? Why did he do that? Who's that, Dad? Why did he say that? Why did the man do that? Why are they going over there? When are they going over there? How did they get over there, Dad? And the father's like, okay, just watch. And finally, we're getting to the end, and he's fighting Stain. You know, he's fighting Jeff Bridges, and so on and etc. And you know, it's really building up, and he's pulled the arc reactor out of his chest, and he's lying there, and he's trying to get the remaining arc reactor, and it's a very dramatic scene, and we know he's going to get it, and he's going to beat Stain. All right, there's no question about it. It's not like Private Ryan, right? You know, it's not like who. Still, you like to, and finally, my inner comic book guy flared up just a tiny little bit, and I said, I'm sorry. Could you just please? And the guy would have had every right to whip right around 180 degrees and just push my eyeballs together in the back of my skull, looks at his son and says, I told you to be quiet. And the kid was quiet for the rest of the movie. So thank you, random parent, for not punching me, but damn it, why did... Speaking of Jeff Bridges and kids in movies, it was the weekend after my father passed away. My wife took me to see True Grit, because I love the movie True Grit. I like the one with John Wayne, and I like the one with Jeff Bridges. There was a couple, and they had babies, plural. And just when we saw it was a night showing of True Grit, and they had babies. And we were just like, oh, man. My wife and I were just like, whatever, you know, if it gets... But again, God bless those 2 parents. Anytime the babies would start to fuss even a little bit, oh, mom or dad, and they took turns. Dad would take a baby, or mom would take a baby, or dad would take the babies, or mom would take the babies. The only distraction came from just seeing them get up, and they weren't in the middle. They were off to the right. When they would get up and hustle out, and they wouldn't come back till the baby was settled. So random people who were at True Grit back in 2011, the winter of 2011, thank you. You did an admirable job. And I hope you enjoyed the movie as much as you could. But that was, Iron Man. Guys, folks, don't take your kids to see 2.5-hour superhero movies.
No.
It'll be streaming in 9 weeks.
We'll just get a babysitter and go one evening.
Get a babysitter. Get a babysitter. The babies at True Grit was the thing that like really threw me. And my wife and I were braced. Me and Mrs. the Dungeon Delver were just braced for impact. We're like, this is gonna be shit. Because the movie, like a Friday night showing, it was like crazy popular. She was just like, I'm taking you to see this movie. You need a break. You need. I was like, okay, thank you. And you know, there's no like, well, let's just move up over here away from them. Yeah, no. Parents were on the money. I wish this guy had taken his kid out so I could have watched all of Iron Man without, well, why did he go over there? And why did he fly over there? And who are those guys over there? And why is that guy attacking him? And why didn't he punch that guy? And why did he punch that guy? And who's that girl? And is that Iron Man's girlfriend? And I was just like, shut up! Don't take your kids to see 2.5-hour superhero movies. Don't do it.
No, it must have been bad when all the Hobbit movies came out. I didn't see them in the cinemas, so yeah, that must have been atrocious. People taking like 7-year-olds to see.
we saw the Lord of the Rings movies, and at the time, I was enchanted. I thought they were wonderful. The further away I get from them, the further back they get in the rearview mirror, the less I like the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings movies. Mm-hmm. The Hobbit, I loathed. Like that was the opposite of a good movie. But my wife swore to me that bad things would happen to me if during Lord of the Rings I made any Agent Smith jokes when and the actor's name is eluding me now. He played Agent Smith. Help me out, audience, chat. Come on, you know who I'm talking about. But so we're sitting there, and Colleen's like, "Don't do it. Don't make Agent Smith jokes when Elrond's on the screen." I'm like, I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do it. And we're sitting there, and like a row in front of us, and just to the right, somebody else watching the movie, just very, very quietly, but enough that all of us around him actually chuckled. A guy says, "Hobbits are a virus, Mr. Baggins." My buddy Scott, rest his soul, and I are at the theater, and we're both trying not to break up. Hugo Weaving, thank you, Jorge. Hugo Weaving, and my wife. She's smiling, but she's got to set her jaw like, and I was like, it's that guy. Listen to me. Even Scott was pointing his like, yeah.
That's probably actors becoming too well known for one role.
Yeah, right. It's tough to see Hugo Weaving in, and I really, really appreciate the effort put forward in the Lord of the Rings movies. But yeah, when I see Hugo Weaving in anything, I don't think there's Elrond. I think there's Agent Smith. You know, you put, yeah. You know, put Hugo Weaving as like the kindly old grandpa in a movie, and I'd be like, earpiece, Desert Eagle, when's it coming out? You know. Imagine a remake of The Princess Bride with Hugo Weaving in Peter Falk's role. I'd like to tell you a bedtime story. There's kissing. Consider yourself warned, Mr. Grandson. Count Rugen was a virus, a cancer of this planet. May I finish the story, please? Thank you. But no, Hugo, he will just forever be that, you know. And some actors, they wear roles, but like I don't look at it. I almost prove myself wrong. I don't look at Harrison Ford and think, oh, that's Han Solo. Oh, that's Indiana Jones. I mean, he puts on a role, but then he takes it off. They're iconic roles for him, and I don't picture anyone else playing them, but that's just the nature of the actor. But again, Hugo Weaving will always be Agent Smith, and it'll just be that way. You're quite all right, Tonka. We're just kind of rambling at this point. Everything okay on your end, Kyle? We've lost your video, I noticed.
It's just because I'm a bit tired lately. I'm getting really tired eyes. I think I need new glasses. Mm-hmm. So I'm sitting here rubbing my eyes a lot, and you guys don't want to see that. So,
Kyle, you've watched the show. I pick my nose, I scratch my head, I doodle in my ears. I mean, honestly,
yes, but I have dignity.
Oh, right.
Dignity. Yes. Remember the Singing in the Rain, where he's telling the story about his early career, and he's saying, "But always dignity," and then it shows them, having to do all the pratfalls and doing the stunt work where they get their legs broken and pie in the face and all the rest, and there he's going, "But always dignity." Yeah, that's me.
Always dignity. I tell you what, there's a fantastic, speaking of being in the rain, there's a fantastic story in a story. It's in the movie Network. Everybody remembers Network for Peter Finch's great performance as Howard Beale. I'm a human being, God damn it, my life has value. I'm as mad as hell. I'm not going to take this anymore. Fantastic speech. And it works on so many levels. It works as a cynical, because they cut away to Faye Dunaway, already set to exploit this man's nervous breakdown. And then when you get into the meat of his nervous breakdown, we all feel the way that Peter Finch felt in that scene. But before that happens, what the setup for that, and if you guys don't know this movie, Network, it is one of the great bleak 70s blockbuster movies. 3 Days of the Condor, Network, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. There's just a run of super realistic movies set in the 1970s, made in the 1970s, that it's part of that legendarum. And he's on a fictional fourth national network, and he's a news anchor. His ratings are sagging, and he's just kind of closing out the evening's news, and he just kind of blithely says, "I'm going to kill myself on camera next week."
Oh God!
And he gets fired for it, and he's sitting around, and he's this revered old anchorman, and there's all these young congressional office workers as he's cleaning out his desk, and they're just hanging around him. He's holding court before he's literally thrown out of the building. And the story within a story, funny story within a story. Kyle, are you doing jazz drums over there?
No, it's just a bit choppy. I think it's weird.
Okay. But anyway, so he tells this story, and it's hilarious, and it's written for the movie, but it's just one of those that he was supposed to be talking about this transit line being open on the George Washington Bridge in New York City when he was a young anchor, and he'd been out celebrating getting his job as an anchor the night before, and so he drank. He and his friends went out drinking and had a terrible hangover, and he gets up the next morning. He's completely just bleary-eyed, rubs his eyes, turns on the TV, and there's the remote crew waiting for him. And so he freaks out and remembers what he has to do. And he said, so I'm in a panic, and I grab my coat and I throw it on, and I run out, I'm in my slippers, and I dive into a taxi, and I tell the taxi driver, get me to the George Washington Bridge immediately. And he says, without missing a beat, the taxi driver looks at the rearview mirror and says, Mister, whoever she is, she's not worth it. You're a young man. There was a lot more lead up to that than I made it worth, but there you go. But yeah, no. If you want to see like some great, like, let's say things are going really good in your life, and you're your savings are fine, everything's good, you're gainfully employed, you're healthy, you're young, and things are just going perfectly for you. See 3 Days of the Condor, Network. What else did I say? All the President's Men. The Parallax View is another one. The Last Detail. Just go watch all those movies, and it'll just take all the happiness out of you. It'll drain it right down to 1974. And you'll be drinking bourbon like just in a glass just when your loved one comes home. What the hell happened to you? I watched Network this afternoon. Bill told me to watch Network, and
it's interesting to wonder, what will survive of our civilization, what will be dug up by archaeologists in 500 or 1,000 years, because if it's a particular selection of movies or books or whatever, they'll have a certain impression of our civilization compared to if it's another particular selection, because it's not going to be, let's face it, it's just like dice rolls, right? If you've got a D20, you don't roll, and you roll it even 100 times across the game session. You do not roll equal amounts of 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and so on, right? It clusters around some number. That's just the way chance works in an annoying fashion. More often than not, it clusters around. So that'll be the way it is with our surviving books and movies and all the rest. So imagine it's just all those depressing 70s movies. Or it's all 80s actions movies. They get a very different sense of what our civilization was about. And the internet will make it even worse, if any of the data survives at all. I read a sci-fi story recently where, it's hundreds of years in the future and Western civilization has collapsed. Most people are back to being subsistence farmers and so on. But there's a little monastic order that is devoted to, and they follow a couple of young novitiates who are being introduced to the order and the real work that we do. And it turns out that they've got a computer from the ancient times, a massive data bank of the internet. And they said, it was all stored on computer, but these are dying, so we have to commit it to paper, commit it to vellum. We've been doing this over time, and he shows them all the the physics and the engineering work that they've copied out and all the great novels and so on. And he said and I look forward to the next phase of our work where we dig into the lolcats archives. I'm fascinated to think of what we're going to discover, he says.
Leather-bound volumes of illuminated lolcat images, painstakingly copied, one JPEG at a time, onto vellum. That's just it. I mean, we're all electronic. The Egyptians, the Greeks, even the Romans left records that survive today and will continue to survive, barring an extinction level event that burns the surface of the earth. You could have a comet skid through our atmosphere, do no serious physical damage, but the resultant electromagnetic pulse means that everything going back to like 1960 is gone. It's just gone. I wrote a book. Really, what was it about? Well, it was about two teenagers who were in love and they hunted vampires. Sounds fascinating. Do you have a copy we could take to the scribe and so I could get a copy? No, it was on a computer. Oh.
Well, I mean, a lot of it might not be readable anyway, just because of changing formats. I've mentioned to you before, I read this book all about the problem of archiving. And they talked about, they said the first problem is the sheer volume of stuff that is archived. So they said, you know, for example, like the first century of US Supreme Court decisions is basically one bookshelf. The second century of US Supreme Court decisions is a whole room of bookshelves, because at first they just recorded their decision, but then later on they started adding, they started writing lengthier decisions, there were more dissenting opinions, and they started including all the submissions to the court, all the evidence for the decision, so to speak, and saying, well, because of Exhibit A, I concluded so-and-so, and that. So it just increased in volume. And there was also, after Nixon had his shenanigans, apparently Congress passed a law that all government communications and everything had to be stored and recorded forever. So they gave the example, there was the US Department of Agriculture recorded all its communications and everything on a particular data format from 1975 to 1980. And it was the one US government department that used this format, and nobody's used it before or since. So nobody has any idea how to decode it, but they're still legally obliged to keep all those tapes.
Well,
so there'll be all this stuff recorded, but will we necessarily be able to, you know, do anything with it?
The British school system, starting in like 1979, spent thousands of man hours, and they accomplished it in a tiny amount of space that they actually did this. They created a new Domesday book about British history. And they did it in a multimedia format. They did it on this relatively new medium called Laserdisc, because they wanted a British child to be able to sit down in school and bring up any fact. And, you know, you want a picture of Nelson's column, you want a picture of some tree frog that only lives in the southwest of England, you want a picture of a sparrow that only exists on the Isle of Man, you want, you know, an exact translation of a stone plinth sitting in a field that was carved and has Welsh on it. You can get it all there, and they did a magnificent job on these Laserdiscs. And understand, I heard this back in the 90s, okay? So this thing was completed, and then by the 80s, or by the 90s, the computer that they used to interface with the Laserdisc players, the BBC Micro, they've all been thrown out. So they had this incredible archive work, and they had to scramble and try and recreate the systems to recover the data that was only 14 years old. It was 1994 when somebody went, oh shit, nobody can read this data anymore.
I wonder if universities still use microfiche, you know, because they used to have like old newspapers and stuff. Well, there's microfiche files, but then they'd have the old newspapers, and you'd just sort of zoom through and go, okay, yeah. And, you know, I used to go and look up what the New York Times said, you know, in December 1941 and that sort of thing. I zoomed through. I found the first article when they talked about the flying saucer at Roswell and all the rest. Found all those articles. I wonder if they still do that. What digitized everything?
Back when in the 90s, up until 2000, the electronic banking company that I worked for still stored the majority of their records, in addition to the DLT cassettes, these super fast SCSI-based cassette cartridge systems. They also stored them on microfiche. We had a vault that was just microfiche, and programmers would regularly pull that microfiche and go back and look at certain records. It was
Jimmy says, Bill, we're the species that shot a phonograph record into interstellar space. Wasn't it made of gold?
Yes, the gold
And
anodized.
Sissy says, and now a Tesla too. When aliens come across that, they're really going to, like, what?
Yeah. Would that
Tesla with a dummy in it.
they enter our system at some significant percentage of C, and they plow into that thing, and they're like, "Oh ho! You destroyed our ambassador with a mass driver. We'll get you." Elon Musk is on Twitter as the radiation beams play back and forth across the planet. Was it you were telling me about you're thinking about having your son sit down and hand copy the Dungeon Master's Guide?
Yeah, he needs handwriting practice.
There you go.
The old Thoreau and the other old writers, they used to say, to really understand a book, you've got to copy it out by hand. If you have a text that you really love, copy it out by hand, and then you'll have a really great insight into it. I did that with Mark Ripeto's Starting Strength before I went to the Starting Strength seminar. I copied out his squat chapter, and in the book it was 64 pages. In the exercise books that I copied it out, it was 4 exercise books. And I learned something. I learned that he could have been a lot briefer, a lot more concise. He really didn't need... But hey, I really smashed the squat part of the platform evaluation. I did really well there. Not so great on the rest. I guess I should have copied the rest too.
There you go.
Though I did have a moment where he said, take me through it, how you coach it. And I said, and I took him through it, how he coached it. And he said, no, that's wrong. You don't say that. You say this. And I said, well, this is what you said in your book. And he goes, what? Show me. So I pulled out the book. And I showed him where he had said exactly what I did, and he went, "Oh, well, that'll have to be changed in the next printing." But and that's the thing: if you copy out the book, you are more familiar with the writing than the writer is, because this is the thing with writing role-playing games and all the rest. You write it, and you can be too familiar in that your eyes just scan over it. You don't really, because you wrote it, you don't read it to understand it. You just scan over it, and so unless there's obvious typos or something, you don't understand it. So the important part of writing a role-playing game is getting someone else to read it and play it. Put it out there for the world. So
I'm reminded of someone. One of Tolkien's day jobs when he was at Oxford was working on the dictionary. Like the Oxford English Dictionary, as an editor and that sort of thing. And somebody wrote him a fan letter complaining about why dwarves was with a V and not with an F. Should it be dwarfs? And basically, he responded with, "Please don't correct my spelling. I wrote the dictionary. I know how it's supposed to be spelled." One of those classic Tolkien moments. I think like he went to see Snow White and the Seven Dwarves with C.S. Lewis, and he hated it. It was like, that's ridiculous. Don't ever let those people near my work.
Yeah, but all authors feel that way about movies of their books. It's never good enough. You've done it wrong.
Who is it? Wrote Watchmen and a couple others. Not Neil Gaiman. Can't believe I'm
Neil Gaiman? I don't know. My son was telling me how Roald Dahl apparently hated the TV adaptation, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. I think he would have been even more distressed by the Tim Burton version. But
yeah,
he said, "Oh, it's so saccharine and sentimental." It's like, what was your original book, dude?
But yeah, no, Alan Moore is very much like, when I publish a book, I don't really have any say-so over what a studio does with it if they option it. So I just disavow them all completely. No, that I have nothing to do with it. I don't have a good opinion of any adaptations of my work. But then I think Alan Moore is kind of a putz and a weirdo anyway. But
yeah. Well, I think Roald Dahl was just unhappy because the movie was really popular.
Yeah,
it's different and not what he envisaged, but it was really popular anyway. It's like, what? If it had been a flop, he probably would have been happy. But
right on.
They should have given him a percentage, then he would have shut up.
Yeah.
Mind you, Tolkien Jr. did he? The Tolkien estate was getting a percentage from all the movies and that, but he was still bitching and moaning about them.
Yeah, it's, Christopher Tolkien was, at least he was somewhat, like, there were very clearly things he didn't like about Jackson's about anybody's adaptations. But at the end of the day, his dad sold The Lord of the Rings to pay off a tax debt.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, the income that the Tolkien estate received as a result of those movies and everything else enabled Christopher Tolkien to spend his entire life in a villa in the south of France just writing and working through his father's writing. He never had to work, but he chose to do the stuff that he loved in a villa in the south of France. So I don't think he really should have, got to bitch for it so much. In fact, I think if I were a movie studio, I would put that in the contract. If we buy the rights to your movie, you are not allowed to publicly bitch about it. We're buying your silence. Shut up.
There have been, I am sure there have been cases of movie studios going after authors who, say, this is crap and I don't like it. That's, you're bagging on our movie, so we're going to sue. Yeah, Jimmy.
Christopher Tolkien was a good steward for his father's work. The moment he passed, we got Rings of Power.
Yeah. In the interviews with Tolkien's great-grandkids, it's very clear that they don't give a shit about hobbits or Aragorn or Mordor or rings or anything like that. They just want residuals. Any residuals.
Well, that's the same with all inheritances. It's we had this. We're in a little block of 3 units, or a little strip of 3 units, and in the 3rd unit when we first moved in was this lady who was 98 years old, and a year or 2 later she fell and broke her hip, so she went to aged care. Hey, going to aged care at 99 or 100, that's not bad. And she. About 3 months after she went to aged care, her son, who was like 70, came to clear her place out. And his grandsons, he had 2 grandsons who were in their 30s, who were helping clear the place out. And they had children too, so they were great-grandchildren who were from like 5 to 15 or something. And they came through and they poked around. And so the son was going through somewhat sentimentally, and the grandsons were kind of half sentimental, but the great-grandkids they're just sniffing and poking at the doilies and the pictures of the Virgin Madonna and all the rest.
Yeah.
There was no sentimentality. It was the same thing. Like, it was, I kind of tracked it with the language. So the old lady, she barely spoke English. She was a migrant in the 50s or 60s or something. She was Italian. Barely spoke English. So her son was fluent in Italian. Her grandson spoke a little bit of Italian, and her great-grandchildren didn't speak a word of it. And there was the same level of sentimentality for the stuff. So it doesn't surprise me about Tolkien's family. They just, come and poke through and get the stuff.
Yeah, I kid, but if I kick the bucket, I know that like 2/3 of this stuff is going on the curb. So,
I thought they'd at least sell it on eBay.
Yeah, no. I mean, the standing order to the wife is, and she knows there's stuff back there to reach out to, like Stormberg or somebody like that, and actually make a few bucks. But yeah, if I was old enough to have grandkids and great grandkids, oh, what are all these weird comic book things of Grandpa's? I don't know. Just put them in one of the big yard bags and drag it to the curb. You know?
Yeah, like you should have it in your will that they have to sell the stuff and put a great gold-plated D20 on your grave.
There you go. Just a big 20-sider right there. Well, yeah. I'm going for cremation, so they can get an urn topped with a D20, or scatter
an urn that is a D20. You lift up the 20, and there's the ashes.
Darn right. Darn right. Well, that's not going to happen for a minute or two. Hopefully, let me knock on wood when I say that. But so what are we going to do next week? Oh, nothing, Kyle, because I'm on vacation next week. I'm taking a few days for myself after the guac. So we'll have to communicate.
I'll be on vacation as well because it's the kids' school holidays.
Right on. So Kyle will be back 2 weeks from tonight, as I will be back 2 weeks. I'll be back before then, but Kyle and I, as a unit,
3 weeks. The school holidays.
3 weeks. Okay, so Kyle's got 2. I'm giving him a little extra time off. You know, the show can be such a killer. So Kyle will be back in a few weeks, and I will be back with Kyle in that same amount of time. But tomorrow night, we're having the awesome posters and book drawings. You don't have to be here to win. But if I reach out to you through Warhorn and I don't hear from you in, the space of, say, a month, I'm going to keep it. I'm just going to keep it for myself. So no live stream on Friday at all. And I will be putting games into the grid for the con for myself. I'm going to be running 2 AD&D games at the con, and it's going to be a lot of fun. So I hope to see everyone there. Kyle, thank you so much for being here tonight. Cool looking game. And we'll see you again soon, brother. All right?
Okay, pick up Road Warden for yourselves, guys. I think you'll enjoy it.
Right on. So we will talk to you later, and I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up for a Wednesday night. And again, tomorrow night is strictly your guac convention stuff drawing out of the wizard's hat. And until then, take care of yourselves. Be good to each other, and keep your eyes peeled, folks, because I'm looking for something specific. And I just got to ask you, and that is, have you seen my owl bear?
Have you seen my owl bear? Here's to all the weirdos everywhere, in the woods and in the air. Have you seen my owl bear? Should I shave off all my hair? Bobs are all around. Some live in tunnels underground. Some are fat, some are rich, some are sleeping in a ditch. Can you ride a crooked horse without a saddle, way off course? Naked as a toad, all the way to Smoky Joe's. Have you seen the little creep driving fast in his little green Jeep? He smells like fish and brandy, but his rotten teeth look dandy. Take me to the show, I don't care if fast or slow. From action flicks to dancing dicks, just take me to the show.